Don't judge a service dog team based off of the equipment or the gear that they use. Now, I should preface this with one important thing. Yes, a service dog should be able to walk on a flat collar. You know, every fully trained service dog should be able to walk properly, should be able to heel, should not pull. But the other point of that is that a lot of service dog handlers use other types of gear for reasons other than you would think. For example, yes, Bugsy can walk on a flat collar beautifully. He'll walk on whatever I put him on. But we use a martingale. Now, we use these simply because with my neuropathy, the fewer buckles and clasps and clips and everything, the better. So this is really nice because Bugs, come on, okay, Bugs up. Because I can just slide it right over his head. And it's as easy as that. Now, to most people, that would seem like a very minor and pointless reason to use the type of gear that I choose to use. But for those who have peripheral neuropathy and other mobility problems, you will understand and relate to how much of a difference something so minimal can make. Now, a lot of people may use, what are they called? Gentle leaders, or prong collars, and whatever they choose to use. Any equipment, even a flat collar, can be used incorrectly and can be used dangerously. Prongs and those type of equipment have a much worse reputation because a lot of the idiot owners who don't know what they're doing with their dogs put them on, they leave them on, they use them incorrectly, hurting the dog. And that is why there's such a stigma against those. But any piece of equipment can be abused if you're a moron and you don't know what you're doing. Not everybody who uses a prong or a gentle leader or, all these other controversial types of equipment, not all of them don't know what they're doing. Many of them, especially in the service dog community, do know what they're doing, but there's such a stigma against them because of the idiots. Technically, a service animal should be able to walk on a flat buckle collar. There is no argument against that. I'm not saying no. In fact, I wholeheartedly agree with it. But if the dog is able to, then yeah, feel free to use what you want. I mean, a lot of people use various types of gear, again, for reasons that you wouldn't know, like with Bugsy and I and the martingale. It's not always because of the dog. I know many of the handlers that I know that use controversial types of gear on their dogs use it for themselves and not for their dogs. Yes, their dog can walk on whatever gear they choose to put on them, but they choose the gear that they choose because it makes their life so much easier. Now, I'm probably gonna get a lot of backlash for this video. I'm not saying I support, certain types of gear. I'm not saying I don't support certain types of gear. I'm just saying think before you judge somebody. Because thankfully, believe it or not, this is actually one of the few things we haven't been harassed about yet. But I'm really sick of seeing my friends and just other strangers in the service dog community being torn apart because they use different types of gear. Yeah, absolutely, the dog should be able to behave and perform in whatever gear you choose to put them in. But if, there are certain types that are easier for you to handle physically or, whatever, go right ahead and use that. There's nothing wrong with that. The wheelchair leash, which clips onto the wheelchair, but it doubles as another hands-free leash because I made it to hook onto my wrist. It's just like a bracelet. Because obviously when you're using both hands to wheel, it's very difficult to hold onto a leash at the same time and then add neuropathy on top of that, and it's darn near impossible. If you have a problem with the gear somebody uses, keep it to yourself. Unless the dog is being injured or harmed or it is dangerous in some way, then, obviously. But just don't be so judgy and mean. This was a terrible rant. I feel like this video really needed to be made and just try to be a little more understanding, because just because the dog isn't walking on a flat buckle collar doesn't mean they can't. It doesn't mean they don't know how to. And like I said, my example was just one of many. Oh, and I should also say one more thing. I'm sorry, this is just the most pointless, unstructured rant I've ever done. Don't judge a service dog team based off of their patches. Yes, some may look more professional than others. others. But just because someone has a Doctor Who patch, or a Star Wars patch, or a You Shall Not Pet Gandalf patch, it doesn't mean that the dog is not legitimate. It just means that, hey, maybe that person's a mega nerd, and their dog is dressed like a mega nerd. Just don't judge. Unless the dog's behavior speaks for itself. Yes, the dog may look ridiculous in some cases, but it doesn't mean that the dog is any less able to do their job. Like, I mean, unless the dog is actively showing that the dog's not behaving the way a service dog should, don't judge them. You have no right to judge someone solely based off of the equipment or the gear that they use. And again, I'm sorry, this was the most wishy-washy, all over the place vlog I have ever done. And that's saying something, because my rants are pretty unstructured and all over the place. Just think about it. If you have problems, keep it to yourself. Don't be attacking people. You know, don't harass them or bully them. Unless the dog is in some way being injured or harmed or threatened by the gear that the handler is choosing to use, you have no right to say anything. It's not your place. Have a great day.